So remember when people were banned and suspended, accounts suspended? Maybe it was temporary sometimes, if not like often times. It was, I don't know, permanent. When you definitely around April talked about the origin story, let's keep it comic book related. Talked about the origin story of the Modelo virus 19. And they shut the conversation down in its entirety. It was rejected. The politicians, aside from, we know what Trump's had to say about it, his theory and what he was saying. You remember that tweet he sent? He was like, came out of a lab in Wuhan, and all the corporate press was like, there's no way that happened. It couldn't have happened. There's no way that that did not happen. And then more, say, evidence, if you will. Definitely with Fauci's tying to some of this shit. More evidence to it that kind of lent more of a suggestion to the fact that, okay, maybe it did actually come from a lab. And even was that White House press secretary, we talked about it on this show, even them, they had to concede or ask the question specifically to this. And they were like, we can't rule out anything. They were like, you will rule out that it was like them made, the lab that leaked. And it's like, no, we can't rule that out. Now, of course, they're not going to. Social media websites, Facebooks of the world, are not going to unban you guys that were suspended for even talking about this. And that's always the problem when you focus so much on misinformation. And this is why the concept of trying to stifle misinformation is it's not only stupid, but it's certainly, this is one of the big examples of it blowing up in your big ass face. Because all misinformation is, in the context of how they use it, is stuff that is to the contrary of the official narrative that is being presented by the government and or the corporate press. Now, we know, objectively speaking, that these guys lie all the time. They've been caught in lies over the course of recent modern history. It's been a thing. Truth comes out sometimes later, sometimes like way later, but it comes out, and often it's not often, but you get what I'm saying. Like, you got to take things that are being said by the corporate press and these guys with a grain of salt. But they didn't want to even have that conversation. So when it pertained to like COVID-19, it was like anything that was to the contrary of, like, for example, the WHO. Like what YouTube said, well, it's going to be considered medical misinformation. We're going to take it down. And it's funny because, like I've mentioned before, with YouTube, this used to be a platform where you would go down a rabbit hole of like conspiracy theories pertaining to 9/11, JFK, aliens, all kinds of stuff. This is what the website was like built on, this type of stuff. It used to allow all kinds of stuff to be on this site. Sometimes it was far-fetched, sometimes it wasn't. But, that's on the individual to assess that situation for themselves. This idea that, okay, you have this information and people say something and it's contrary to what you think that it should be, or rather the officials are saying is a legitimate story, then it is deemed as misinformation. No, not how it works. But even now, CDC right here, CDC deputy director and Shuchat says, is the principal deputy director of the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, that's the CDC, said in an interview with NPR Friday that investigations into the origins of COVID-19 are needed and important. Now y'all want to look into it. Now there's more to it. I want all questions to be answered, said Shuchat. There's so much we need to learn about this virus and this pandemic, so we do better next time and prevent where we can. So basically what's happening is a lot of public officials are starting to publicly, albeit maybe they were in hiding, but now they're starting to more publicly say, okay, we got to look into this shit, and which means that they don't know actually what happened, which again means that you could not have as if it was objectively truth that it didn't happen in the way that some people were suggesting, including Trump, were suggesting that it happened. But that's, again, all what you're seeing right now is them pivoting on it. Now, again, they're not going to see any consequence for it, and you're not going to be absolved in the event that you were banned or something for even daring to talk about anything against the kind of official narrative. It came from animals, all this sort of stuff. And now that all of that stuff is changing, people are starting to look and see it for what it is, not more so what they want it to be, which is often what they do. And here we are. And this is the problem for you idiots who don't seem to understand. Well, it's just they're just trying to save lives, medical misinformation. We don't want this. We don't want that. You need to understand why you trying to just control all information that is to the contrary of the regular corporate press narrative, why it's such an issue. And this is the latest example. It's not the only example, and it's not going to be the last one. But this idea that there's only one objective truth, and it has to come from one organization or two organizations, albeit they be tied to the government, which means in itself it is bound for corruption. That's always a mistake. But as I say, this may be a criminal situation, but they're going to get away with the loot. They're going to get away with it. You just watched a clip from my podcast, For Canon's Sake. Catch us live at 12 p.m. throughout the week over at youtube.com/YoungRipper59 and follow us over at odyssey.com/@YoungRipper59. If you want to watch the entire video cast after the show is over, just be sure to become a member on the YouTube channel. Of course, the full audio portion of the podcast is available for free on all major digital platforms, or just visit forcanonsake.com.